Alright, so we need to talk a little bit about the Switch Pro and the Switch Mini because, of course, with E3 all wrapped up, there wasn't really any big news in regards to Switch Pro and Switch Mini. In fact, Nintendo said they wouldn't talk about hardware at E3, but that didn't stop hardware news from happening. So I actually had two pretty big pieces of news to talk about. First is stuff that came up last week, and that is the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal was added again. They've been at the forefront of all of these Switch rumors, the Switch Pro, the Switch Mini. They're not really calling it the Switch Mini or Switch Pro. Basically, they're saying there's a cheaper, smaller form factor Switch coming, and then a little bit more expensive, slightly more powerful system coming as well. So we kind of tagline it as Switch Pro and Switch Mini, but we don't really know what they're going to be called. Nintendo's probably going to put a new in front of the one, and maybe even a new in front of the other one. Who really knows? Nintendo did tell the Super Lucky Tail people when they were bringing the game to Switch, and they actually reinvented it and did some new things with it. When they were like, hey, what should we call this? Nintendo's like, hey, why not new? So don't be surprised if that moniker comes back after the new Nintendo 3DS XL and whatever. Anyways, the point here is the Wall Street Journal has put out there and reported that Nintendo has moved some of their manufacturing out of China and put it into places like Taiwan. And that makes a lot of sense because there are incoming tariffs happening with consumer electronics, and they need to start getting Switches manufactured outside of China to keep the cost low for the United States. And what's interesting in this manufacturing shift, and their sources come from manufacturing, is that they are apparently not just making current Switches, they're also manufacturing 2 new models at that plant with the goal of having enough of those systems for a launch in North America. And they're already making the systems right now. So that could suggest and could infer a holiday release, potentially for both platforms. It might seem crazy to see both of them this year, but that is what Wall Street Journal has been saying all year, and now their manufacturing sources are like, look, production's ramping up specifically for the United States, so there you go. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but who really cares when we don't know what these things are? Well, we now might have a very good idea, because there is a new Tegra X1 chip coming. It is a smaller, faster chip. It is the same chip that we have seen in the past, but since it has been shrunk and all that stuff has lower power draw, it's actually able to perform even better. What this does enable for Switch, if this is a chip made for Switch, it is right now publicly announced it's coming to the new Shield TVs. What this does provide the Switch is higher clock speeds across the board, and likely not a pared back Tegra X1. So for those who don't know, the current Nintendo Switch runs on a Tegra X1, but it doesn't even run at stock speeds. It runs about 30% less than what the Tegra X1 is able to put out, at least in docked mode. But the reason for this is thermals. The X1 is in a very hot chip, and running it at stock in that type of form factor is very difficult to do. But a shrunk down version that uses less energy not only creates longer battery life, it creates less heat. So not only is it able to hit the stock of, well, the last generation Tegra X1, it's also able to increase its performance over the last generation. Now, we're not sure exactly what this increase is going to be as of yet, because these chips in these new NVIDIA Shield devices are not actually out in the public for us to look at. But what we do know is NVIDIA is saying that it is faster than the last Tegra X1 while using the same technology. This is the perfect chip to be putting inside brand new Switches. Not only is it perfect for the more powerful platform, which could run at higher clock speeds, it's really great for the portable one as well, because they can now make a smaller form factor Switch that has, better heat dissipation. In fact, this entire die shrink, even though it's being announced for the NVIDIA Shield TV, could have been actually created specifically for new generations of Nintendo Switches. Because the Tegra X2 that everyone talks about, that everyone likes to speculate would be in the Switch Pro, doesn't exist as a video game chip anymore. The work that was put in the Tegra X2 was reworked to put into smart cars and smart vehicles. And while we know a grand idea of what those chips ultimately became and what they run on and how it's able to still have some backwards compatibility if Nintendo wanted to use them, they're not really chips that are designed specifically for gaming anymore. That doesn't mean they can't handle gaming, it's just not something that they're built for, and obviously the heat dissipation on those is probably crazy at this point. So having a shrunk down Tegra X1 actually enables Nintendo to get the full capabilities of the X1, if not more out of it now with even higher clock speeds. It is conceivably possible that the shrunk down Tegra X1 with its new higher stock clock speeds could actually be achieved and maintained on a new Switch Pro system. While they could still pare it back a little bit for the smaller form factor to keep the heat dissipation low and keep performance levels of that Switch in line with the current Nintendo Switch without having to completely redesign the wheels. So this is great news across the board. Essentially Nintendo can now create that Switch Mini with a Tegra X1 that is now die shrunk, so it fits in a smaller form factor. It can have less heat dissipation and still hit the clocks that the current one hits, while also putting the chip in a normal size Switch, essentially, with better heat dissipation and a moving fan, because I have a feeling the Switch Mini will not have a moving fan. That is just something that's not exactly child-proof, and it's better to not have moving parts like that in a system meant to be handled by children. So I think the Switch Mini is not going to have the fan, and that's going to be a huge difference in heat dissipation. But that smaller chip being more power efficient will let it hit the current speeds of Switch in that smaller form factor, while also being able to hit much higher speeds when you have a moving fan in, say, like the current Nintendo Switch model. So what you end up with is a more powerful Switch. And, well, a Switch that's on par with the current one. And again, both of these are supposedly coming this year. You might be like, but where and why are they coming this year? Well, for starters, you want to maintain Switch's momentum. Right now in the US, the Switch is the #1 selling platform. But we also know that PlayStation 4 and Xbox 5 or Scarlet or whatever they end up calling this dang thing are coming out next year, so that momentum could be short-lived. So while it's overcome PlayStation 4 this year to become the top-selling system in all of North America, it doesn't mean it's going to maintain those sales in, well, next year, because a lot of people are going to be looking forward to next gen, and you got to keep the mind share of fans. Now, obviously, we know there's a lot of great games coming that are going to push things anyways, but imagine launching a Pokemon game, which, by the way, Sword and Shield, new generation, coming this year. Imagine launching that within proximity of a Switch Mini. Wait, have they done that before? Oh, wait, they did it with the 2DS. They launched a Pokemon game within a month of launch of the 2DS system, which was their pared back Nintendo 3DS meant for kids. See the pattern here? Nintendo could be doing that yet again. Now, as for the Pro, what could they be, tagging with the Pro or whatever they end up calling this thing? I don't know. Astral Chain, I doubt that's a little soon in August, but Luigi's Mansion 3 perhaps doesn't have a release date. Maybe it doesn't have a release date because it's releasing alongside the Nintendo Switch Pro. Just throwing it out there. And what's great about this still being a Tegra X1 is everything just works. Everything works. The increase in power just leads to higher resolutions and frame rates when using the better hardware. But it doesn't necessarily mean the games won't be running on the standard Switch hardware. This is actually a brilliant move by Nintendo to release a more powerful Switch, keep it cheap enough to still probably charge $300 for it, have whatever they decide to fix. Maybe they do something better with the Joy-Con clips or something. I don't know. Whatever. Make it work with all current accessories, and you still have a more powerful platform. Now, is it going to compete with the PlayStation 5 and whatever, the 14 plus teraflops? No, it's not. But that's not really the point of Switch, is it? It's to be one of the most powerful handheld gaming devices there are, and also not just be a powerful handheld gaming device, but be a convenient one for the users. And that is something that I am glad to see that Nintendo is putting some effort into, or at least rumored to be put. Remember, this is all rumors or leaks or reports, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. I'm personally pretty stoked about all this stuff. I did, recently get my son his own Nintendo Switch, and that means that for the new Switches, I'll probably end up trading in my Switch and then, doing what I need to do for that if and when these come out. Just because I want to, with him having the regular Switch, I can then get a Switch Mini in the house and play around with that, and maybe give that to my youngest child once I'm done, and then get the Switch Pro for myself. I don't know. We'll see. Budget's allowing there, but I'm pretty excited to see these systems. I don't know if this is exactly what they're going with, because again, this is just the Tegra X1 being talked about in a new light, and obviously the Wall Street Journal saying, hey, look, they're like making these things now, and we've been saying 2019 all year they're coming. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. For those of you wondering, well, why hasn't Nintendo announced these platforms yet? Well, the new Nintendo 3DS, when that was announced, was literally just a trailer dropped on YouTube. They didn't do a direct for it. They didn't have a special hype leading up for it. In fact, it was like a week or two before that was even announced. They said they weren't making any new 3DS models, and then bam, there you go. So, and then literally they released it that same year. So this is not unprecedented. This is how Nintendo's been operating for a while. So yeah, while we might be hyped and there might be hundreds of thousands or millions of views on videos like this talking with the Switch Pro and Switch Mini and the possibilities and the tech and everything, reality is that Nintendo doesn't do that. They just drop trailers and say, buy it here. And we kind of do the rest. I think they just realize the internet's going to do all the hyping for them. They just need to announce it when they are ready to announce it, when they know they're going to have enough manufactured, and when they think it's going to be a good look for the platform. During E3, they wanted the look to be, look at all the games we have. And as some of those games start coming out, then it'll be, hey, look, by the way, it's not just games, look at the brand new hardware. And that's going to be exciting. And I think keeping it with the Tegra X1, if that is indeed what they go with, the shrunk down version of it, also helps maintain people's mind share of, hey, look, it's okay if you buy a Switch now. Because the new Switch is going to be more powerful. It's not really like this generational leap in Switch, right? It's not the Switch 2, so you don't need to feel pressured that you have to go buy that Switch. If you would like to buy it, there will be some benefits and frame rate and all that stuff, especially in third-party games, but it's not necessarily something you need to purchase. You're going to have all the same games. Everything's cross-compatible. No issues. Same technology, just faster clock speeds. And if you get the Switch Mini, hey, you get a smaller form factor Switch of, people who don't like the current form of Switch and they want a more portable version, there you go. So, honestly, I think this is a smart business decision for Nintendo. They can worry about a Switch 2, a next generation Switch, using Tegra X2, X3, whatever, some custom-made chip by NVIDIA. They can worry about that in the future. I think they could probably ride the Switch Pro for another 2 years, 2.5 years, if that releases this year. So ride it through 2021 and then maybe get something out in 2022, talking about a new, more powerful, more next-gen Switch that's probably cross-compatible a little bit, let's be honest. I don't think they're just going to abandon cross-compatibility, but we'll see. Again, this is all rumors and speculation. I want to hear what you guys think about this down in the comments below. I am Nathaniel Rufflegents from Nintendo Prime. Be sure to drop a like on this video if you like it. Share it to all of your friends. Let's make this community at Nintendo Prime as vibrant and as big as it can be. I want to thank you guys for all of your support over the years, whether it's on Patreon at patreon.com/Nintendo Prime, Super Chats, live streams, likes, comments, just watching a video. I appreciate the time that you spent with me for today and every other day that you watch a video. And man, I'll catch you all in the next one.